Welcome to another episode of The Breakdown. There's no question that the political climate in Alberta is probably more let's go with dramatic than we've ever seen it in any of our lifetimes, in all likelihood. And that's had some interesting effects. Not only have there been the policy pieces that have obviously had a big impact on Albertans' lives, but it's also spurred some Albertans to take up the social media in a way that we haven't really seen in Alberta before. And what we're talking about specifically is political satire and some incredibly funny political satire, but it's also branched out in some unexpected ways for some of the people who have generated that content. We're very, very fortunate today to be joined by somebody who has made some pretty big waves in the political satire realm in Alberta, tiny realm that it is, and that is Emma Deedy. So Emma, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It is an honor and a privilege. I follow you on Twitter and I love what you do. You break it down in a way that I can understand and make sense of in my mind that has, largely influenced a lot of the TikTok. So thank you for the work that you do.
Well, now you're going to go and ruin our reputation by saying nice things and stuff. I didn't bring the puppet today, so we'll just have to make do. So to start with, in the broadest of strokes, who is Emma Deedy? And I'm going to trip on your name a few times. I apologize because in my head I've been saying it Deady for like the last 6 months or whatever, and so now it's a transition.
I think that works if you're going to be, if I were to read it on a piece of paper, I would say Deady too. I think it used to be Deady, but well, whatever works.
Okay, well, we'll get it right because I think saying people's names right is important. But who is Emma Deedy?
Emma Deedy is a 28-year-old from the Yukon. I grew up there. I was born and raised there until I was about 12 years old. I moved to Cold Lake, Alberta, and that's where I attended high school. And I got out of there as quick as I could after and moved to Calgary to attend the University of Calgary. And I've been here pretty much ever since. And now I've found myself in some weird corner of Poly TikTok, and that's how I've been spending my quarantine.
So, with the TikTok piece, when people picture TikTok, usually they're picturing a couple of things. Either they're picturing people doing, and I got to be clear, it is men and women both doing dances, showing as much TNA as they possibly can,
Very much so.
or it's bad dad pranks, or there's this fun little corner that's political satire. And you have been producing some of the most clever, intelligent, biting political satire that I've seen on TikTok. And I have to be, I don't spend that much time on TikTok, but I try to follow the things a little bit, as much as a middle-aged white guy can. So how did you get into doing satire on a platform that's designed for the most easily digestible content possible?
I got into it, I suppose, just as anybody over the age of 20, I think in 2020 got into TikTok, was just I was bored in our first Alberta lockdown, if you can call it that. I downloaded it and I was just there for a good time. And I made a couple silly videos that I still have. If you scroll to the bottom of my TikTok, where I'm just goofing around. And then I finally made one. I think Jason Kenney just kind of pissed me off one day enough. And I just was like, well, let's see. Everybody was talking about, Trump and Biden. And I was just like, well, let's see if there's anything out there for Alberta Politics TikTok. And I put out this one with the hashtag Fire the UCP. And it's just a really silly one about Jason Kenney. And it got the most traction of any TikTok that I'd done. And like the most traction, like 18 likes. And I was like, oh, cool. It looks like maybe there's some people out there who want to see this content. And then in the comment sections, it was actually a bunch of people who more or less support the UCP and Jason Kenney. And I said, no, this is problematic. And then ever since then, I've just kind of been teaching myself on the go about Alberta politics and what I think that some people should know, just because I really do feel like the general narrative has been controlled by right-wing media in Alberta. And so I just kind of wanted to make some digestible, real life, look at this is a 28-year-old telling you this. And just something easy and fun and engaging enough for people to grasp onto. Because I'll be perfectly honest, my attention span is that of a squirrel, and when something isn't interesting, it's gone. So I've always tried my best to be an engaged citizen, but when it comes to Alberta politics, I'm guilty of falling asleep at the wheel, kind of, and just I think that's how we got to where we are now. It's just a bunch of people who were complacent. So I just took it upon myself to make content that I think I would want to see, that just shows people current events, kind of, and largely makes fun of Jason Kenney and the UCP.
Now, do you have any kind of background in like improv or theater or anything like that? Where does the creative drive come from, if you will?
No, I remember, as a kid, I do remember making, dances and silly plays and skits with my younger sisters and friends, but that was just in the privacy of our own homes. And I grew up in the Yukon with a TV and only rabbit ear antennas, so we just got CBC. And Rick Mercer was, and still is, my hero, and I grew up thinking he was the funniest dude on the planet. And my friends, I think, thought I was weird, probably still do. And I was just inspired by him. My mom's always been extremely political and always was engaging us and dragging us to town halls. And my biggest claim to fame when I was a kid was that I met Jack Layton, and I thought I was like the coolest kid on the block. And it just kind of spiraled, I think, from there, just idolizing somebody who is his This Hour is 22 Minutes and Rick Mercer is political satire. And I think it just was a childhood of idolizing him. And then it wasn't even until high school, I think, that I got satellite and started watching Saturday Night Live and was like, yeah, these people are cool. And I mean, that it all just stayed on the back burner until TikTok happened in 2020, and I had some time on my hands to kind of be like, okay, and then whatever this is, happened.
That's that's an excellent answer. It's funny that you bring up the CBC thing, because one of the things that I find fascinating is with a couple of people that we've spoken to who are doing sort of the the satire, the humorous piece. Love the mug, by the way. Are have that sort of background of CBC. I mean, when I was growing up, it wasn't This Hour Has 22 Minutes. It was a show called Kids in the Hall, and that was hugely influential on sort of my humor, I think. So it's just interesting, and I grew up in northern Alberta, so it was rabbit ears as well. It was we could watch Kids in the Hall, and on Saturday afternoons you could watch the original Star Trek, and other than that it was other than that it was the Wide World of Sports. I'm really dating myself now.
Yeah. Okay. What about Red Green? Do we have common ground on Red Green?
We do. We do have common ground on Red Green. That was a little bit towards the end of my let's call it a youth.
Yeah.
But yes. So I guess one of the next questions is, where do you get your information from that you use to sort of inspire the videos that you're creating?
Kind of just, lurking Twitter and listening to the conversations there and seeing what people are engaged with. I think it's kind of a good indicator to create content to put on TikTok that other people will find engaging. So if something's trending on Twitter, I'll just kind of get the feel for it, read some articles and educate myself about it, and then throw up a TikTok and hope that it works. TikTok is such a weird algorithm that you just never like, I swear to you, sometimes I'll be like, man, I'm gonna get an Emmy for this. And they'll get like 2 comments in a view, and then I'll do something completely last minute and just like, oh, I'll just quickly make this before bed or whatever. Oh, I shouldn't have posted that. And I wake up and the video has 100,000, 200,000 views, and it's just there's no rhyme or reason to it. But I would say, yeah, I just kind of scour different social media platforms, see what people are interested in, see what people are talking about. And then I also have just done a few things that are important to me to bring awareness to, such as Post Media, the conglomerate that it is, that kind of has control of a lot of the media and the direction the conversations go in Canada, that I want people to know about. I think I've kind of hit that a few times. And Rebel News, of course, I think they are deplorable, and I would like more people to know about that. So I've done a few things there, but for the most part, it's just following the conversations online, seeing what people are interested in, educating myself, and then making a TikTok. It's a very bizarre process, and there's no rhyme or reason. I don't think.
But you're very fast with them. That's one of the things that's interesting to me. Yesterday, I got a notification that you had put a new video up, and I watched it right away, and then I had to explain to my kids what the purge is. So, no, it's good. It was cool. My kids, despite being younger, they've got a pretty good grasp of the whole satire, and they're probably some of the more politically aware under tens that there is, just by proximity. But it's fascinating to see how quickly you're able to get the current events, tie it to something, and then produce that content. I mean, for us, it usually takes about a week to get a full podcast out. So it's pretty cool how, to me at least, how reactive you're able to be. And I used the word biting earlier. I'll use it again, because you cut right to the core of what's at a lot of these issues, and it's really quite entertaining.
Thank you.
That being said, though, it has had some interesting side effects. Now, before I get into the big side effect that I want to talk about, I'm curious if, like you mentioned that you had gotten a bunch of comments from some pro UCP folks when you posted your first political video. There has been a lot of issues with women raising opinions on social media that are critical of the UCP, and the reactions of some of the employees of the government to those criticisms. I'm curious if you've received any of the sort of harassment that we've seen from some of the issues managers and comms folks that are paid for by the taxpayer.
I personally myself have not received any threats or any kind of intimidation from such people on Twitter or other social media platforms that I'm aware of. The thing about TikTok is it's not as transparent as Twitter is. So the trolls that do still kind of comment in my comment section on TikTok always hide behind names that are just a bunch of random numbers. You can't see a profile picture or who they follow or anything like that. So I mean, I'm not going to say that any one of them is an issues man or whoever it might be. But I personally, as for Twitter or to the best of my knowledge, can say that I've never received any
That's good.
That's kind of intimidation from them. Yeah. But somebody did start throwing oranges at my house, which is questionable. I don't know if they think that, because it took me a long time to figure it out, because I was like, why could somebody be throwing oranges at my house? Why oranges? Why always oranges? And then, the NDP always uses the orange in their social media tags and stuff. I'm like, oh, is that it? Is that the tie? Do they think that I work for the NDP or I'm affiliated with them in some way? But I have no idea who's doing that.
Were you able to keep any of the oranges at least?
No, and that's the thing. They've been thrown from a distance, so they just they're absolutely in tatters. I want to, whoever it is, if you could throw, I'm not a big citrus guy. I like apples. I eat a lot of, I don't, I think throwing grapes would kind of suck. Bananas are going to get bruised, but if you could stop throwing oranges, I just don't love citrus, and they're not sturdy enough to be thrown. So
You need some variety.
yeah.
You get some cherries, some pineapple, make a nice fruit salad.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, groceries are expensive. If you're gonna throw things, like I'd like to be able to use them. Just throw them, like lob them. I don't know, but you know.
Write hateful things on the side and then just leave them nicely at the door.
Right. Stop throwing oranges. I have enough. Throw apples, bananas, some tofu. I love almond butter.
There you go. I imagine though almond butter would probably be hard to clean up in the winter.
Well, maybe they could throw the whole container.
Oh, there you go. As long as you don't have windows.
Yeah, don't hit the windows.
Now, it's good to hear that you haven't had any of that sort of targeted harassment that some of the women of the AB Poly realm have experienced, but you have had some interesting reactions where people have reached out to you. And I would like to play a little video here that I screen captured off of your Instagram last weekend. So for our audience, we're recording this on the 27th of November. So this was about 5 days ago that Emma posted this.
Guys, if you could just listen to what I'm about to say, it's really, really important. Healthcare professionals in Alberta are starting to reach out to me because they have contracts. They can't speak to the media. The most recent is a registered nurse from here in Alberta begging me to say something. I only have 1,000 followers here. I'm a 28-year-old nobody. She thanks me for the little that I've done to help spread this message. Our government is so inadequate that registered nurses and doctors are reaching out to me to ask people to stay home. Another ICU RN wrote this to me. I know you're already doing lots to try and save Albertans, and I really appreciate what you do. I also know that most of your followers probably already agree with all the things you are saying. I'm just desperate for something to give, something different to happen, so that things don't continue to get worse. It's already so bad now, and we're even more short-handed. If there is any way you could tell all your followers to take this even more seriously than they already are, to stay at home, don't go visit people in hospitals, don't lie to screeners, don't meet people for drinks. I know it sucks, but our lives literally depend on it. Thanks even for just taking the time to read this far.
So, Emma, can you tell our audience, what do you think prompted people to reach out to you like that? And I mean, obviously, you were deeply affected by the messages that you received. Walk me through that.
Yeah, I don't know what prompted them to reach out to me, other than sheer desperation. Like in one of those videos, I say I only have on Instagram 1,000 followers. I've got over 5,000, I think, on TokTok, and maybe 1,000 on Twitter. But like, I'm by no means, I don't think, a person of influence. And so when these doctors, nurses, healthcare workers in general started reaching out to me, it was just, I could feel the desperation, like that they would have to finish their shift, and after they've been worked into the ground for the past 10 months, they'd have to finish their shift and go on social media, not even to just kind of get away from it all for a minute, but to reach out to citizens in Alberta and ask them, like, can you please tell your friends to stay home? I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I can't do this, we don't know how much longer, you know, we're gonna hold out. Please, if you can just say anything. It was just, honestly, it was the me knowing how uninfluential I am, and just that they had to do that on top of carrying a province and keeping us all alive. They had to beg random people on Instagram to tell their friends to stay home, to tell their friends to wear a mask. It's just, it just perfectly kind of captured the state of inadequacy that we're at with our government, with how we've lost control of the pandemic, and just, it captured, I think, what we're dealing with right now so perfectly. And it was just, it was unimaginable to me. And so I did the, you know, the little that I could. I'm like, yeah, guys, I mean, I've been telling you stay home. I've been staying home since March. I just stay home. Don't go to brunch. Stop doing it. Just, you're gonna be okay. Like, look at these people begging me for, because our government won't step up and say, please stay home, please wear a mask, because they're afraid of the base that, you know, thinks that this is some kind of Greek tragedy, some kind of monumental hit against their freedom. And it's just, I don't know, it was anger and just helplessness. I feel helpless as they do.
Clearly, it seems to me though that the content that you're creating obviously is resonating in a really really big way. I don't think that people reach out to people who they don't identify with in some capacity, and the fact that you've had multiple healthcare workers go, oh, she's killing it. I think maybe she might be able to help. I think that speaks to the power behind the content that you're producing and the fact that it's resonating. Have you put any thought? I'm curious. I mean, it's obvious not just from that video, but from watching you speak just there, that the enormity of having these people reach out to you is not lost on you. Have you put any thought into the fact that clearly your videos are providing a bit of an escape and a bit of humor for them as well?
Uh, um, I mean, I I would hope so. You know, if they can finish a long shift and anything that I've done makes them smile or laugh, that's pretty cool. Um, and then I guess it's all worth it.
Did you ever expect? I mean, I can tell you, as I know people who work in healthcare, uh, and uh, your videos often get shown among healthcare workers. Did you ever anticipate that when you started this little TikTok adventure, which sounds like a children's book?
It truly does. A pop-up.
Exactly. With time travel and stuff. Did you ever think that you would be receiving messages like this, having obviously as big of an impact as they're having, as you're having? Did you ever think any of that could happen?
Oh, no, 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 no. Like I said, when I started TikTok, I was, I don't even know that I was really even going to contribute content to it. I just found it very entertaining and a way to pass the time. And like I said, this was not premeditated. It's just kind of snowballed into whatever it is. And you know, the fact that some people have reached out to me and said, you know, like, thank you for what you're bringing to the table, or for starting the conversation, or you know, thank you that you made me laugh, or whatever the case may be. But I never, it was, it just kind of happened so fast. I never really thought, like, oh, this is where this will take me, or the impact it will have. I've just been flying by the seat of my pants, just like, all right, well, they like that TikTok, I'll give them another one. And it's just snowballed into this amazing kind of TikTok culture where everybody just dunks on the UCP and Jason Kenney, and it's just the thing I love about it is like a bunch of Gen Zs that they're just socialist kids who don't give a shit. They're tired of the way that the world is, and when the UCP when the UCP trolls do get in the comment section, they get shut down so quick. They don't have any of their like bots or whatever, or just like conservative trolls to back them up. Gen Z just shuts down the conversation, and it's amazing to see. And I have so much hope for that this generation. I'm their biggest fan, and I think that's been what's really cool to see on TikTok. It's just the engaged kids that are out there.
It's interesting to hear that there's. I hate saying things like this because it makes me feel so damn old, but that there's younger kids who are getting more engaged in politics and using TikTok as a tool to drive that engagement and do some of the communication around this stuff. Because one of the beefs in politics and in democracy historically is always the kids don't vote, the kids aren't engaged, and so it's interesting to see this platform being used to translate into some engagement for younger kids. Do you think that's sustainable?
I do. I mean, unless there's some huge, I don't really know. I don't know. I think it's sustainable if the trend of the internet and social media and freedom of speech kind of continue. I think that it's very plausible, but I do feel as though we are going to have the conversation somewhere along the line here when it comes to social media and accredited journalists versus people just stating opinions. I think that this is all kind of getting out of control very fast. We can see how it's proliferated just with anti-maskers and all of this. Social media has just opened it up to spread so much disinformation and misinformation that I do think that we're going to have a very real conversation as, I think, a world, or I mean, I don't know how that will go, but what can be shared, and like what are the limitations of freedom of speech, and kind of where that's going to go. I think that the youth will always be engaged. I don't know that if it'll be TikTok or Instagram or whatever that is sustainable, but I think that their level of communication now they have with the world with cell phones and everything, there's no way for them to disengage from seeing kind of where we are in regards to late stage capitalism and just the kind of crumbling of societal structures that it just can't withstand the weight of the way we've been moving forward anymore. I don't know how you'll silence them. I think it is very much so sustainable. I just think I don't know what it will end up looking like, because just as much as they are loudmouths and out there and speaking their truth on social media, you have the other side who are doing the same thing, and that's I believe how we've got to the QAnon problem and all of these things, and somebody trying to assassinate the prime minister, and like it's just it's gone too far, and I don't know how or when we start the conversation on who gets to say what, when, where, what should we share. I don't know on that end, but I do think that the Gen Z or the youth or whatever we're calling them of today are shining little beacons of hope, and I just love them for it.
It's interesting that you raise that point. I mean, one of the things that's struck me about a good number of the videos that you're creating is the fact that you have some pretty decent research that goes behind them. And at the same time, the satirical element of TikTok, I think, allows people to kind of recognize that there's a mix of humor and there's a mix of bias, and then there's some facts that we're making fun of at the same time. We've with our stuff, we've taken the step of, on all of our bios, it's very clear we're not journalists. We don't claim to be. We don't have any interest in being. Do you think that there's merit in the conversation, including something to the effect of there's content that's created that has some basis in reality, and then there's the actual journalism that is unbiased and factual. Is there any value in trying to steer the conversation for the kids to a place where there's a clear, there's a, I don't know exactly what it would look like, but rather than just saying you can believe everything you read on the internet or you can't believe everything you read on the internet, you need to go on the internet with a bit of a bullshit filter.
Right.
How do you see any path to something like that?
I think that, I mean, we're all just winging it for the first time, right? Like, as much as any of us are trying to be professional this, professional that, we are all going through the age of social media at the same time together, and maybe it looks like teaching a course in elementary schools and high schools, or whatever the case may be, on how to be media literate, how to consume news sources, spending a lot of time on media literacy, and I think that goes also, though, hand in hand with teaching children things, that help them not be, biased. For example, just the fact that the UCP doesn't want to teach children about residential schools. I think that that's hugely important, so that we don't get to a place where we have full-grown adults, or even just teenagers who have kind of made up their mind in high school, that they've got biases created, that they are able to critically think and use their mind, and know how to sift through the shit, and or sift through the sand or whatever.
I said shit earlier. It's okay. That's like one of the ones that's okay. I don't think anyone can take that word too personally.
Well, we did get called, what did we get called? NDP, potty mouth NDP foot soldiers, I think, by the UCP yesterday. So I'm just trying to mind my potty mouth. No, I think that it looks probably like media literacy courses. And then maybe, the part of the problem is, I believe, with some of this stuff coming out of alt-right media is the fact that it is so sensational and attention grabbing, and it's like watching Jersey Shore, the Kardashians. You don't want to watch it, but you can't look away. And I think that maybe media literacy courses, or just teaching kids how to not believe everything they read online, would maybe it would just kind of smother out that voice of the alt-right, all that kind of sensational media by itself. I mean, if they're not getting clicks, if they're not getting shares, if everybody's just reading it going, okay, this is trash, it's just, I mean, there's gonna be no value in reporting those things. But I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I think that you make a very valid point in just saying that you don't have to be an accredited journalist to say something or have an opinion or share something, but just making it abundantly clear, as you do that, hey, we're not journalists, this is something that we think that you should know about, trusting people to be smart enough to decipher it and decide how they want to take that themselves. And I guess that's the problem I have with media outlets, like, if you can call them that, Rebel News, is that they don't make that disclaimer. They're out there and people are believing that they're journalists reporting the facts, and that's, I think, the problem I have. So maybe it's attacking that. But I don't know where you even begin. It's so much. There's so many problems.
It's an interesting mess. One of the things that I've been trying to sort of reconcile is the reality is journalist is not a protected title. So, for example, I work as a paramedic, and there are laws that are in place to say that I can call myself a paramedic because I went to school and I'm registered and all the things. But none of that framework exists for journalism. Literally, anyone can like write journalist on a Sharpie with a Sharpie on a piece of paper, and if they go out with a camera, they can technically call themselves journalists. Do you think there's value in a conversation about, okay, so if we're going to have people who are identifying themselves as journalists, maybe part of the conversation needs to be, what is satire? What is infotainment? What is good journalism? And what is bad journalism? Because I look at some media organizations who have gone to great lengths to get credentialed by the government, for example, as journalists. And I mean, that cat is out of the bag. I'm not sure that there's going to be any putting it back in, because from now till the end of time, they're going to be able to say, the government of Alberta thought we were journalists.
Right.
But I think that there's merit in having a conversation of, well, you may very well be a journalist, but I think you might also be a shit journalist.
Right. And that's the conversation I think that has to happen is, as Canadians or whatever, we have to decide how we go about separating the disinformation from the misinformation, from the entertaining to the facts to the opinions. Because unfortunately, I honestly believe that not enough people maybe grew up reading newspapers where, you actually had to flip to the page that was the opinion, pieces, and that's all they are, is that person's worldviews crammed into their opinion of whatever news that they've just taken in. And too many people, I think, just through, their own ignorance, read these opinion pieces and go, it's news, where it's not. It's that person's opinion, it's their take on the news, but it's not as free of bias as other news sources can be. So maybe I don't know if I don't know what it looks like.
It's interesting that you say that, because one of the things that strikes me when I take a look at the wonderful comments that some people leave, the most wonderful ones are almost always people over the age of, I'll go 55. I'd be willing to bet there's not a whole lot of 55ers on TikTok. Could be wrong. But when I take a look at the comments that we receive on the Facebook machine, overwhelmingly the people who say, I'll say the dumbest stuff, are 55, if not 60 plus. And it's interesting because what I see, and I would include your work in this.
I think, okay, if I need to call myself out here, if we're gonna start calling people out on what counts as this and that and that, my TikTok it's infotainment, and I'm not an accredited journalist, and
no, absolutely. But I think that the content that you're creating is spurring conversations about issues that are maybe pushing people to look for actual facts, not just alternative facts that we apparently now have in Alberta.
Right.
And that's the way that I kind of look at it is I agree with what you said earlier 100%. I think that it's the youth that's going to save us from this shit show. And I think that it's fantastic that you're creating content that youth are able to engage with. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. No, seriously. And it's been like I said, it's therapeutic for me most days to do these things. I think a lot of people are just kind of feeling at their wits' end. And for me it really is just, if I don't laugh, I'm gonna cry. So half the time I'm making it, it's just like, okay, here you go. And it's been a interesting little journey, but I'm glad people are enjoying it for what it's worth. And what you said earlier is true, that it's brought a smile to anybody's face, then it's worth it. It's weird. 2020 is weird. It's a
True
very
that.
weird time to be alive.
I have a feeling 2021 is likely going to be weirder.
But
Please don't say it. Don't say it right now. I'm too fragile. I am hanging on by a thread.
Fair enough. What do you have any future plans? Are you just going to keep kind of plugging away at this until the end of the world happens, or?
Yeah, I think that's. I'm just gonna ride out TikTok until I can't anymore, and then yeah, maybe just fade away into oblivion. I don't really know. I'm winging it at this point. Obviously, I'm not paid or anything for what I do on TikTok. It's just been something that I have taken up in my spare time and my forced alone time that's come out of COVID-19. I don't know really where I'm going from this, and it's just a little hobby on the side, if you can call it that, on the side. And I mean, I love it. I have a lot of fun doing it, but I have really no future plans. Just like everybody, I think kind of with 2020, it's shifted the focus to maybe everything that I kind of thought was important is a little less important now. And I don't know, I'm just kind of open to wherever this leads me.
Perfect. For people who aren't already following you, which is almost an unforgivable sin, I think, what are your handles on, obviously, the TikTok, but you also cross-post a lot of your videos to Instagram and Twitter. So where can people find the stuff that you do?
So it's at Emma Deedy on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. So that's just my first name and my last name. Should I spell it out?
I think you should, because like I said, I was screwing up your last name for the last 6 months or so. So
it's at EMMADEADY. Your autocorrect might autocorrect my last name to Deadly, but it is just Deedy. I'm not quite cool enough for that handle yet.
right.
Is there anything else you'd like our audience of 4 people to know?
Hey, 4 people? Come on.
On a really strong day, maybe 5 or 6.
No, anything I want them to know. Wear a mask, stay home. What else? Call out if you have any friends that are kind of getting into that QAnon-y conspiracy territory, have a talk with them. Have a real talk with them. They're dangerous people. And what else? No, just stay safe, wear a mask, stay at home, be kind, tell your friends and your family you love them, and thank a essential worker every day.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us today, Emma. I really appreciate it. And I would definitely encourage our audience to check out some of your videos, because they are unforgivably funny. So
Stop it, you made me blush. I think I've been blushing this whole time, but thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And that's it for this episode of The Breakdown. As always, if you appreciate the kind of content that we're trying to produce here, please consider signing up to be a supporter on our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/thebreakdownab. If you're listening to this episode as the audio-only podcast, please consider leaving us a rating and a review, because that helps us get the podcast in front of more people. And finally, if you aren't already, please follow us on all of the social media platforms, all at The Breakdown AB. Thank you.